Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Concern Forum. I'm your host, Robert Gomes, and it is 45 degrees here in Harlem, kind of cloudy, and fortunately, the pollen count apparently is pretty low. Unfortunately, though, even though it's supposedly 45 degrees, it feels like it's 34. And that was our little weather report. Now, down to the cases. First of all, once again, let me introduce myself. I'm Robert Gomes, your host, and I'm woke. I know that sounds a bit strange, but we gotta do that, right? I do that purposely because I want the world to know I am woke. I am sick and tired. There's a certain segment of Republicans, they feel that it's their responsibility to twist and turn the English language. And quite frankly, it's time that we call these people out. Because I notice if you ask the average Republican, like when you're watching the news on television and they got the mic in front of the guy's face or the lady's face, what the hell is woke? I would love to see when one of these reporters just ask them, what the hell is woke? Now, growing up, I understood woke from the dictionary, which basically says woke is being awake. So I'm trying to understand what the hell is so god awful terrible about being awake. Bobby, get your butt out of bed, make sure you get woke, and get ready for school. Okay? That's what woke means. Kind of like, oh, well, she was awakened by a noise. That's all it is. And I can't repeat that enough. And we let these modern day American conservatives and their Republican henchmen just twist stuff around. What's his face down there in Florida, DeSantis? He's after Disney. And see, that's one of the things that is just so, this whole Trump, DeSantis, Republican BS. That's what's so disgusting about it, because the Republican Party is not supposed to be in favor of government interfering with corporations or any type of business unless they're doing something to break the law. And apparently DeSantis and his pal in Texas and Arkansas and a few other governors of these red states, they feel that they have the right to basically take their political opinions and turn it into law. So quite frankly, if there's anyone, any group that's out there trying to weaponize government, it's them. What the hell do you think reversing Roe versus Wade? What do you think that's about? If that is not weaponizing government, I don't know what the hell is. And see, that's the problem that we have in this country. You got DeSantis down there in Florida. Don't say gay. Well, who the hell is he to walk around telling people what they should and should not say? And please, let's not run this nonsense about, oh, well, it's about the children. No, it ain't about the children. It's about all of us, right? And the banning of books. In Florida now, I guess reading or teaching children about Hank Aaron, great baseball player. Oh, and what's that other brother? I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. um, played for New York, was from the Dominican Republic. Was he from Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico? Well, he was, you know, Afro-Latino brother, great guy. He did so much for charity. You can't read about him. You can't read about Frederick Douglass. Did I mention? The guy took down Colin Powell's picture and Harriet Tubman. And I'm saying, you know, what the hell are we allowing these conservatives, because that's what they are now, right? That's what they call themselves, which is actually crap because they're not conservative, they're just fascist. You know, when you start talking, you know, having people ban books, the next thing you know, you're going to be banning people. And I say it here and now. I'm not saying every single Republican believes this, but what I am saying is that the Republican Party, what they stand for is war against people of color, especially African Americans. We are the main target, you know, followed by Latinos, followed by Jews. Reason being, because most of the immigrants that are coming in this country now are non-white. And I'll tell you that, the honest to God truth, no European, no Caucasian European in their right mind would come to the United States. They're not going to leave their health care in France or Germany or Switzerland, even Britain. You have some that do. But generally, none of these countries are going to, none of their people are going to, you know, bum rush trying to come into the United States. Because it's just, for them, it's just not worth it, right? There's no social safety net. It's too damn violent. So the only people that you have coming here now are non-white people, primarily, for right now, primarily Latino people. And that's fine. You know, the more people we take in, what we 12 million people short for our labor pool. So we need those people that are coming in here. Now, if you want to talk about how it's being done, and you want to have some type of proper, you know, orderly way of bringing the people in, well, fine, we can sit down and we can discuss that. You know, some type of fair, intelligent process of bringing in the new people. But America has always been ground zero for immigration. After we, and folks, don't get angry, but this is historical fact. After we raped the Native American people of their land, everybody else started coming over, right? As far as we know, as it stands now, I'm not going to go into some of the different theories about who was in North America first or anything like that. But aside from the indigenous people who came, Spaniards, Portuguese, and Africans, all right? That's what started, you know, the ball rolling. Then you had, you know, English, no, I'm sorry, you had French, and you had English, Italian, so on and so forth, all right? But this is the land of immigrants. And just because we're going through a period, because we've gone through these periods before of discrimination, of hatred, okay, towards different types of people. And unfortunately, with the advent of Trump, he didn't invent it, but he is the one that basically put the match to the gunpowder. And this is again where racism, you know, you cut your own throat. Because if we could sit down, Republicans and Democrats, and intelligently work out a decent immigration schedule, we wouldn't have none of the problems. Actually, we don't have the problems, not the way that the Republicans are trying to describe it. Oh, well, they're a threat to the United States. They're coming across our border. You know what? You know what's a threat to the safety and well-being of the United States? These red states with their lax gun laws, okay? And the same way people transport drugs from one state to another, that's what they're doing with weapons. That is a threat to the American border. All right, number one. Number two, when Joe Biden, in the State of the Union speech, when he was talking about fentanyl, oh God, fentanyl, that is a terrible problem. I mean, my goodness, it took out Michael Jackson, for crying out loud. But see, that fentanyl problem, that comes from Americans who are going down across the border and bringing it back up. So this idea about, oh, well, if you stopped immigration from the Southwest, you would stop fentanyl. No, because the mass majority of that terrible drug, it's brought here by fellow Americans. And see, these are the realities that we have to deal with. Now, we've had a terrible disaster, actually two, in the same general part of the country. We had that terrible shooting, mass shooting at the university, what was that, University of Michigan? My God, those poor folks, they are the victims of a bad border, okay? Because I can assure, I would bet money that ultimately the weapon that that gentleman used to kill those innocent people, I'm quite sure it came somewhere from one of those red states. That is a danger to the safety and well-being of the United States. And the problem with the railroad and how the cars were, they were overturned, and it released all this toxic chemical crap. Ah, my God. That's another one for the Republicans. Why? Because that train screwed up because it didn't have the necessary safety features. Why? Because the Republicans, anytime you're talking about regulations, these Republicans, oh, too much regulation, it's costing too much money, blah, blah, blah. Well, how much money is it going to cost now to make that town, that county in Ohio, how are you going to make those people whole? And I tell you, quite frankly, anybody that goes to this place now, if they're drinking the water, they're crazy, okay? People living there say that when they get up in the morning, they open the door and they have this aroma and taste coagulating in their mouths, coming through their nostrils. That place, the water is not safe to drink. It's not safe to breathe in that area. So this idea that this company, who was that, Northern something, not Northern Pacific, the other ones, Southwest Railroad, the idea that they're just going to basically take care of those people with a song and a smile, is absolute nonsense. Those people are devastated. That town, that county is devastated. And it's going to take millions, if not billions, to make those people whole. which they have every right to expect from that company. Oh, and you know what's really weird? What's his name? Governor DeWine of Ohio was working with that company about a month before this disaster happened to work on standing up and fighting against regulations. The very regulations that would have prevented that accident in the first place. And see, this is what I mean about the American people. Now, a lot of the folks in Ohio, they didn't vote Democrat. They had a chance to get a good United States senator in there, but they, by a small margin, they went with this damn Republican. What the hell? I feel real bad about this because you don't want to make it seem like you're trying to kick people when they're down. But by the same token, the right wing wants to constantly talk about accountability, responsibility, but they never seem to want to have accountability for the people on their side of the fence. And that's not right. That is not right. They need to have an investigation. Who in Ohio? By who, I mean, what political figures were being lobbied by this company, by this railroad corporation? That's what they need to investigate. And they need to make sure that that company pays through the damn nose. Because, you know, quite frankly, I don't understand what's it going to take for the American people to say no. Enough of this. This whole idea that we live in some kind of corporate rule. It's not supposed to be like this, folks. And quite frankly, I'm very disappointed and a little bit disgusted when I see Americans that you know, I don't give a damn if you like politics or not, but Americans of all colors and backgrounds need to understand politics. That's how this country runs. And you owe it to yourself to be, you know, to educate yourself to find out what the hell is going on, what's happening in your life. And see, I don't, you know, I'm not talking about what those crazy bastards did on January 6th. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing serious research so that when you open your mouth to talk about some of these issues, you have a basic idea. I'm not saying you have to have a PhD in every subject that concerns the United States, but you do have an obligation to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to at least know what the damn questions are. How the hell are you going to figure out the answer to something if you don't even know what the question is? And then you got to wait for a demagogue, a dumb demagogue like Donald Trump, or DeSantis down there in Florida, to tell you what the problem is. Because they are the ones, they are a result of the damn problems. See, and this is something that we need to understand as a country. What the Democratic Party needs to do, they need to understand that this is not about, oh, well, we have to get ready to fight Trump next year. Or, well, wait a minute, maybe not Trump, he should be in jail by then. Okay, we have to get ready to fight DeSantis. And then somebody else will say, no, we got to be ready to fight Nikki Haley. Listen, the idea of trying to get ready to tackle a political opponent right? That is something that should be left to the campaign of whoever the Democratic Party's nominee is, right? That's really inside baseball. As a party, what we need to do 24/7, we need to show the American people that we are fighting what passes today for the Republican Party, right? Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, um, what's that one? There's a young lady, I think she's the governor of one of those states where they have like 15 people, but they, unfortunately, in the Constitution, they are entitled to 2 United States senators. I think she is the governor of what, South Dakota? But whoever the nominee, don't care. Doesn't make a difference, should not make a difference. What we are doing, we have to get ready to fight get ready to fight the Republican Party. Because it's not about the damn people. It's about, in terms of who's going to run against us. It is about the damn party. And we have a situation now where we have a Democratic Party. We have 2 major parties in this country. Whether we like that or not, I don't care if you're one of those people, you believe that we should be like Europe and have 6 or 7 different political parties. Fine. Right now, purpose of this conversation, don't care. We're talking about what is. And right now, in the United States of America, 2023, 2024, we are talking about this time period. All right? Not what we hope to have 5 years, 10 years down the road. Right now, you got 2 teams. We are fighting the whole team, not Donald Trump, not DeSantis, okay, not Nikki Haley, but that whole fascist, right-wing, stormtrooper Republican Party, or what passes for the Republican Party nowadays. Trust me on this, okay? I grew up in the Republican Party. What we see now, this is not the Republican Party. This is a neo-fascist party who have taken over what used to be the party of Lincoln. Now, don't take my word for it. Look, observe, listen. Do these Republicans, generally speaking, do they remind you of anything? Do they come even close to reminding you of Abraham Lincoln and what he ultimately stood for? I mean, I hope you know the answer to that. Obviously, this is no longer the party of Lincoln. So what we are doing, we are fighting this ideology. We are fighting this ideology that says a woman does not have the right to control her, her life, her choice as to whether or not she wants to have a child, or bear a child at a particular time. That she does have a right to privacy. That if she has a male spouse or companion, and they choose to use some type of birth control, that is their business. And it is not the business of the state to pry into their sex life. I mean, we're talking some really basic stuff here. What's the expression? We are not talking rocket science. As a matter of fact, we are talking about the American ideal. Yes, I want the right, or in my case, my lady wants the right to make her own determinations about what type of birth control she wishes to use. Period. And no politicians they have no business being in your bedroom. I mean, what the hell is this? You're going to have a couple of Congress people and a Supreme Court judge standing over your shoulder while you're preparing to make love? Oh, well, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, that's a form of, prophylactics or, what have you, and you can't do that. Government has more important things to do, number one. Number two, it's really none of the government's damn business. And see, this is what really slays me about these so-called Republicans, right? You are going to tell people when they can have a child, right? Or when they can conceive. In most of the countries in Europe, if a woman is pregnant, the state will kind of try to help defray some of those costs. And you don't see none of these so-called Republicans say, well, yeah, when you have a child, here's an extra $20,000 a year for 2 years or 3 years, or something, It really freaks me out. It truly does. I cannot get over these so-called Republicans. How in the hell are you? Let me interrupt myself for a moment. You talk about, okay, you cannot have an abortion after 4 weeks, 15 weeks, 25 weeks, whatever. Okay, well, actually, to me, the point is you don't have any idea when life begins. See, this is what I mean. These fascist Republicans have been trying to get themselves involved in something that they have no idea about, right? And we cannot allow this, right? This is something that belongs to a person's conscience and the science. And, we cannot say this often enough because anything else is wrong. I don't even believe, what's the one? These right-wingers will talk about, well, the progressives, they want to be able to have an abortion at 9 months and all that. Hey, guess what? I think that that's a stupid thing to say. It's a stupid argument to make. And I tell you why. Because something like that, in the realm of giving birth and what have you, that is for your personal doctor to say. Hell, there are cases where you necessarily have to have an abortion at 8 months, 9 months. You have to ask yourself, why is it so-called Republican Party? Why are they so into this whole thing? Oh, and by the way, you have a whole bunch of Republicans who happen to be women who are basically dead set against what the Republican Party and their cohorts on the Supreme Court. These ladies are definitely against what the Republican Party has done. So when I say Republican now, remember, I am talking about the ones who are out there actually carrying the flag. for the Republican Party, or the so-called new Republican Party. Like that woman from Georgia, what they call it, MTG. I'm not saying that all Republicans are like that or believe that nonsense, but unfortunately, they are the loudest voices now in the Republican Party. All right? I'm not saying that all Republicans hate immigrants, especially immigrants who are of color, you know, from Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America. Not all Republicans feel this way. However, this base that they talk about, like they talk about the Trump base, well, those folks, yeah, they are definitely, how should I say, Hillary Clinton had a term for them, undesirables or whatever. Yeah. And the sad thing is that if you see someone pro-Nazi, right, racist, bigoted, I'm not saying that all Republicans are like that. However, if you are like that, chances are when it comes time to vote, you're voting Republican. And see, that's another problem, that many folks who were formerly Republicans, they now are no longer with the Republican Party, see? And this is the danger that we face in this country. This woman's going to come out, I'm talking about MTG out of Georgia there. Yeah, well, it's time for the blue states and the red states to get a divorce. Again, pure ignorance. Because everybody knows that if it wasn't for the blue states, the red states would starve to death. And we're not, you see, this is a stereotypical picture has been painted, which is totally incorrect or incorrect, okay? That when anytime you're talking about food stamps, welfare, or social services, right? Oh God, they just want money for them black and Hispanic folks to sit on their butts and get free food and make babies, see? But that's not the case. That is not the case. Travel with me down to Central Virginia, to South Carolina, to Arkansas, places like that, right? And you're going to find just as many white folks online for Medicaid, for food stamps, right? For whatever, okay? Social services things, right? You're going to have just as many whites utilizing those services as you have black. Poverty, poor health, it doesn't have a color. And see, this is one of the things that has kept this country back, oh, right? And these Republicans, you know, 50 years it might have been something else. 100 years ago it might have been something, a different name. But it's always the same old game. Divide, keep people divided. That's why you see in the white community, people getting social services, you know, that they need health care and what have you, but they will not vote for the politicians that are fighting to get them these type of needs. In other words, they constantly vote, right, at their own expense. They cut their own throat when they walk into that polling booth, right? They cut their own throat. Why do I say that? Because they're voting against the people that are trying to alleviate their poverty, and instead they vote for people who A, don't give a damn about them, and B, who are doing everything they can to keep them in poverty, to keep them grinded down. And see, that is the problem. And I give that group, right now they call themselves Republicans, but they've been around for the longest. And they always do that. That's why the South, why do you think the South has a reputation for being slow and stupid? I mean, don't get mad at me. I mean, you can if you want to, but you need to stop getting mad at people that are telling you the truth, right? The South has a reputation for being anti-intellectual, definitely a place of poor health, right? Why do you think that is? You're ignorant, you're overweight, okay? You got bad health because you have a bad diet. Why do you think it's like that? That is what comes into most people's mind, even if they won't admit it. But that's what comes to the mind of most people when you talk about the South. Why? Because what the powers that be have always done, they have always worked 24/7, as I said before, to keep us divided from each other. Because they're scared that this poor working class white guy might just happen to bump into this low income, maybe not that well educated black guy, and they might start comparing notes. And they might come to the conclusion that, hey, your life is just as screwed up as mine is. And they might continue to put their heads together and say, wait a minute, these people got us fighting each other over bullshit, when the real enemy is that guy that won't allow Medicaid to come into my state, that maybe might help my wife, because we're scared she might have has cancer. But we don't have health insurance, or not enough, and we don't know what to do. So what do? They tell those white folks, hey, do you know that in your state, someone that's a trans person, they can run, they can go, and they can basically get on the swim team with your son or your daughter, whichever. Something that, my God, out of 10 million people, you might have two trans people. And going to war against that trans person is more important than getting the medical help that your wife needs or that you might need. It's just like they had a thing, this was back in about 2019, I think, or 2018. They had this white gentleman, and what was it? I think that was rural West Virginia. It was either Mississippi or West Virginia. I can't remember which one. And this guy, short guy, right? Unfortunately, you could just look at the guy and listen to him. And, well, put it this way, you would never confuse this guy for a PhD. And to make it worse, the poor guy didn't have any, he had no teeth in his mouth. So you can imagine when he tried to have a conversation, it didn't look good, put it this way. And so here goes the thing. The reporter asked this guy, why are you going for, why are you voting for Trump? Why are you supporting Trump? Oh, well, I think I'm supporting Trump because I know he believes in God. Okay. So the reporter says, well, this Democratic candidate here in this county, he is running for a medical, like a health program that will allow you to get some teeth. And the poor fool, he didn't have any kids at that point in his life, but he says, well, yeah, I heard about that. Oh, and the reporter says, oh, okay, well, you heard about it. Well, you can do some fact checking, but that's true. And the poor guy, says, oh, okay. And so the poor asks him again, well, are you still, you still supporting the Republican candidate? The guy, uh-huh. And that was the end of the conversation. But see, that's what this bullshit about cultural wars, that's what it's all about. Now here it is, you look at DeSantis, this clown has a state that's like ground zero for climate change. I mean, every other weekend they got a damn hurricane, coming through Florida there. And on top of that, you have all these insurance companies. They look, man, I'm getting the hell out of Florida. I'm not covering you down here. I'm not covering people in Florida because there's too many damn hurricanes. And we're not going to do it anymore. We're not going to keep spending money so you can keep rebuilding in the same area, which is, a hurricane feast. Why should we keep doing that? Where's the economics in that? Instead of the Santos being concerned about that, oh, they got a big problem. You're going to hear about it as we go through this year. Instead of Santos, working on stuff like that, he rather take busloads of, scared, poor people, innocent people. They're just trying to find a home. They're immigrants. They are not thieves. Okay? Instead of him concerning himself with the issues that affect everyday Floridians, because in spite of what you might have heard, immigration is not, it's not a problem, okay, that the immigrants created. It's a problem that certain segments of the population down there, they are the ones that cause the problems because they see darker skinned people coming into Florida. Not stopping to think, well, hey, this is what started Florida off in the first place, these dark-skinned people, right? We have to fight Mickey Mouse, says DeSantis, because we want to be able to tell Walt Disney what to do. And I mean, it's just, there's so much insanity. And that is what this culture war is, what do you call it, culture war? It's just a war against dark people primarily, and against Jewish people, and against a woman's choice. That's basically all the cultural wars are about, all right? You read the Constitution. Our Constitution, no way, no how, even recognizes the concept of a cultural war. Because in America, church and state are supposed to be separate. But see, I say that this is one of the main problems that we have here in the United States. Anytime we forget that, that's when we have problems. This whole thing about white Christian nationalists, right? So nobody, in other words, nobody can be a Christian unless they look like you, think like you, have sex like you. This is not what made our country great. And if you want to answer to the question of is America the greatest country in the world, I would have to say no. Because a country that is great, for example, again, Ron DeSantis chasing through Florida, trying and not, it's unbelievable, hunting down black folks, especially black men, to scare these people away from going out and voting. That's not the sign of a great country. Especially when you look at the fact that this is being done by the governor of the state of Florida and a few other places in this, quite a few other places in this country. So no, to me, that does not imbue a nation with greatness. I'm sorry, but I don't need someone from this phony Republican Party to teach me or lecture me about patriotism. And when you get to the point that you have to indoctrinate, that's indoctrination, right? And when you're trying to indoctrinate your young people into, well, this is patriotism. You do this. This is what you mean. This is what it means for you to be an American patriot. And yet, what do? On the one hand, you say, well, you are supposed to risk your life for your country because that's patriotic. You can't teach that. Somebody can't put you in the classroom when you're in the 6th grade and say, yeah, this is what makes you patriotic. And then you turn around and you say, well, we're going to take away this book for you to read, book about one of the greatest American heroes in modern times. I'm talking about Colin Powell. How is that patriotic? How is that a sign of greatness? You see, this is, when you lose the love of truth, hell, as far as I'm concerned, you have lost everything. And see, that's a major factor of the cultural wars that the so-called Republican Party is fighting the rest of the country with. They hate truth. The Republicans hate truth. And we can, why don't you want, what is CRT? Why are you so go crazy over something that's not even being taught? Say, oh, well, they're teaching my second grade daughter to hate herself. Wait a minute, 2nd grade? Nobody's teaching anybody anything in the 2nd and 3rd grade. That's a lie. That's not true. That's the first thing. But see, if you have studied these people over the last few months, remember it started off with, oh, they're teaching my little kindergartner, right, to hate himself. See? And then they worked their way up. So now you have DeSantis trying to say, well, trying to attack colleges, asking for a list of, professors in colleges and what have you. Well, damn, ain't that the same thing that the Nazis did in Germany when they first came in? They were elected to power, and then once they were elected to power, they took it from there. That's why I say this new Republican Party, they are not Republicans. They are a new fascist movement. And we need to be, we need to stand up to these folks. I tell people one of the reasons Hillary caught so much hell is because the Republicans, the Democrats, they had this attitude, well, we'll just let them go and yell and scream, and we're not going to dignify that. We're not going to dignify them by arguing with them. Well, guess what? That doesn't work. Somebody slap you, you got to slap them back. And by the time Hillary got around to that, it was too late. Too late for the slap back. Because you have allowed that poison to get out into the environment. And see, that's why you always stand up for yourself. Now, some people, myself included, we're saying, hey, you know, the Democrats, we have made, being rational about it, we have made a little progress, right? But see, here goes the thing. The reason it feels like that is because you finally have a few Democrats who actually were standing up, see? And that's wonderful. That's what we're supposed to do. But see, the problem now is that we're not doing enough of it, all right? That's what we need to work on. That's what Democrats, progressives, former Republicans, you got to stand up. You got to make sure that people see you standing up, because that's the way, that's how our civilization is nowadays, right? We like the screen, the television screen, the cell phone screen. We like that. That's how we get our information, especially with the cell phone. We have to keep doing that, right? Not just against Donald Trump. As I said earlier, we have to stand up to all of them. Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, what's her face? The governor of Arkansas, right? Who got into the office because her daddy was a governor of Arkansas. And that's another thing. Now here it is. She gives the so-called Republicans, she puts out the rebuttal to Joe Biden's State of the Union, right? Arkansas is one of the, was it two? I'll be generous. Arkansas is one of the 3 worst states in the union. And when I say worst, we're talking about education, we're talking about food, we're talking about the length of life, right? And she has the nerve and the audacity to call herself standing up against Joe, right? One of the least educated places in the United States, one of the least educated places in the Western world, okay? Not just the United States, not just the South, but in this present Western civilization. Arkansas is like, I don't know, 49 out of 50. So how in the hell, oh, and then she got the nerve to put out some kind of proclamation, CRT will not be taught in Arkansas. Well, in the first damn place, what is your definition of CRT? That's the first thing I would say to her. Secondly, where was CRT being taught in Arkansas? So what the hell are you talking about? You have proclaimed against something that you don't know or understand and was never taught in the first damn place. This is, see, this is the danger, okay? This is the danger that we face from the right wing, from the so-called Republican Party. Ignorance, all right? That's what this is. This is a war against ignorance. I know I said earlier that this was a war being waged against black people and against primarily people of color, LGBT people, and Jews. Primarily, that's what this whole culture war is about. And, excuse me, and when you have people who have, for their own grasp of power, you have these people coming out with these messianic proclamations. Yes, there will be no CRT taught. So you get people all hyped up about something that's not being taught. And, you know, part of this, a little bit of this, I hold Bill Maher responsible, because his thing was it the groomers or was it the, trying to make our children gay, which was never true. I want him on his show. What he should have done, he should have brought in a teacher who actually teaches second graders about how gay people are the good people and straight people are all, ugly ogres or something. Let Bill Maher do that. Instead of encouraging people to attack LGBT people, that's something that Bill should have done. Why? It's like, I don't know, it's like he turned off his brain and decided to work for the neo-fascists of the Republican Party. I mean, that's the only way I can see it. And oh yeah, he's another one that talks this nonsense about woke. I am still trying to find one Republican out there that can give me that can give anyone a definition of what the hell woke means. Listen, I'm Bob Gumbs. This is the Concerned Forum, and we'll catch you next week, same time, same place, same channel. Have a good weekend. Bless you. And you all take care of each other.